Yo, what's going on YouTube? This is your boy D Wayne bringing you yet another YouTube video at this time. So we got another archetype we're gonna be discussing coming out of the Burst of Destiny pack. This is called the Jian. So this is another Chinese archetype, much like of course, the Yang Zings and the Tenyis, of course. So this is also a synchro archetype, which you guys know how I love me some synchro. So yeah, so this is definitely interesting stuff. I've already read through the effects and stuff. It's a very accessible synchro deck, which is really good. It reminds me a lot of Maikashi's in a way, because they literally have quick access to synchro monsters, just like Maikashi does. So alright, with that said, let's go ahead and get into the cards. Alright, so first we have Meeiji. This one is a level 4 water worm effect monster with 1700 attack, 1800 defense. The first and second effects are hard ones per turns. If this card is normal or special summon, you can reveal one Jian card or one worm monster from your hand. Special summon one Jian token, worm tuner, level water, level 4, 0 attack, 0 defense. While this token is on the field, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except synchro monsters. Second effect reads, if this card is sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you can draw one card. So this card is really decent, as it's essentially a 1 card level A synchro, with the added upside of giving you a draw upon this card is sent to the graveyard as synchro material. It's really solid. Definitely will be a splashable card, because with this there are no restrictions on what synchro monsters you can summon through this. So since it's literally a 1 card level A synchro, you have access to a pretty big pool of level A synchro monsters that are generic that you can summon through this card's effect. Examples being Dragite, of course, since this is a water monster, which will give you a water monster in the graveyard to have Dragite be able to negate spells or traps. Or you can summon the Cypher Lord Omega, or you can summon the Tenyi level 8 synchro as well to control the board through that card's effects. Alright, so this card is definitely solid, and it's definitely a good start to the archetype. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into the second one. Now this one is Tai A. This one is a level 4 wind worm effect monster with 1800 attack and 1500 defense. First and second effects are hard ones per turns. You can banish one Xingqiu or one worm monster from your graveyard to special summon one Xingqiu token, worm tuner water, level 400. While the token's on the field, you cannot special summon monsters from your extra deck except synchro monsters. Second effect reads, if this card is sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you can send one Xingqiu or one worm monster from your deck to the graveyard. So the first effect is slightly different from the first card we discussed, that you have to banish a Xingqiu or a worm monster from your graveyard in order to get your token activation. And the second effect is different from the first one in that it sends a Xingqiu or worm monster from your deck to the graveyard. So this obviously can combo with the Tenyis, as the Tenyis can activate while in the hand or graveyard when you control a non-effective monster. So yeah, it's pretty solid, but not as good as the first one. Alright, so we have the first level 6 monster. So this is Xiaoyun, the Xingqiu tactician. Her second effect, hard ones for turns. So you can discard one other Xingqiu card or one worm monster to special summon this card from your hand. Then you can special summon one Xingqiu token, similar stats. While the tokens on the field can add special summon monsters except synchro monsters. And if this card is sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you can inflict 1200 damage to your opponent. Of course, making sense as it's a fire attribute. You can, you usually equate fire attribute monsters with burn damage, so makes perfect sense that the second effect would be that. So also, this can also be a game ender if your opponent is low on life points. So yeah, so this also counts as a 1 card level 10 synchro, since of course there's no restrictions on the level 10s you can summon. You can summon, what is this, the Baroness, the Fleur Baroness synchro monster, or you can summon this archetype's level 10 synchro as well. Alright, so you have a plethora of different options there. You have some level 10 generic synchros that you can summon through this effect. Alright, so next level 6 is a Earthworm effect monster. This is Chunjun. First and second effects are first and third effects are hard once per turns. First effect reads during your main phase quick effect, you can tribute one monster to special summon this card from your hand. Second effect reads before damage calculation, if your worm battles an opponent's monster special summon from yesterday, you can destroy that opponent's monster and this card. Third effect reads if this card is sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you can target one card on the field or in either graveyard and banish it. So this card is pretty good. I like the third effect, as of course is one of the best ways to get this effect off. Of course, being sent into the graveyard to synchro means banishing a card, and it targets, but unfortunately it targets, but it does, it is removal that doesn't destroy, as most effects get off when they're destroyed. So pretty decent card. Unfortunately, unlike the other one, this doesn't summon a token, so you already have to set up the token in order to use this card as synchro material to get the third effect to go off. And the main phase quick effect, attribute to special summon. That's just not too bad because it's a 24 beater, so it's has some pretty decent stats, and you can actually destroy monsters that were special summoned from yesterday by destroying it before damage calculation, of course, so you can just outright destroy monsters, period. So it has some interesting implications there. Alright, so now we have the first synchro monster. This one is Zhao, the Xingqiu Grand Swordmaster. This is a level 8 light worm synchro effect with 2800 attack and 1000 defense. This one requires one tuner and one or more non-tuner worm monsters. So first and second effects are hard once per turns. If this card is synchro summoned, you can add to your hand or banish one Xingqiu card from your deck. Second effect, which is a quick effect, you can banish one Xingqiu card or one worm monster from your hand or graveyard. Target one other effect monster on the field, negate its effects until the end of this turn. So that's you start to see what the deck's gimmick is. As it's banishing cards to trigger off various effects and stuff like that. So these spells and traps will have the same thing going for it as well, which I'll get into when I get to the spells and traps. Alright, so next synchro monster is the Xiang, the Xingqiu Grand Duke. This is a level 10 water worm synchro effect monster with 3000 attack and defense. This one's materials are generic with one tuner, one or more non-tuner monsters. The third effect is a hard once per turn. First effect reads gains 100 attack and defense for each banished card. Monsters your opponent controls lose 100 attack and defense for each banished card. So you start to see what the whole banishing thing is all about. It's mostly to fuel this card's effect to power up and power down your opponent's monsters. So second effect reads if this card would be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish one card from your graveyard instead. Also another effect that fuels the first effect. And if this card becomes banished, and if a card becomes banished, you can banish one card from your opponent's field and graveyard. Banish one card each from your opponent's field and graveyard, which is very, very solid indeed. Very solid indeed. Being able to banish your opponent's resources. And it's non-targeting removal, which is the best type of removal. So this is a non-targeting banishment from your opponent's field and graveyard, which is definitely solid to clear out problem threats in your field and in the graveyard, so you can attack for damage or just have advantage on the field while you're making your plays. So this card is definitely a solid boss monster. It does have the protection effect, but it doesn't have a negation as with most boss monsters, which is good. Gives it some unique versatility, and it's a fresh perspective on a card that isn't negate heavy, so definitely a solid card. Alright, so that is it for the monsters. Let's go for the first spell. So this is the Xingqiu Dragon Sword appears. This is a normal spell. First and second effects are hard once per turns. You can add one Xingqiu monster from your deck to your hand, Or if you control a synchro monster, you can add one worm type monster instead. This card is banished. You can target one jian or worm monster you control, increase or decrease its level by 1 until the end of this turn. So first effect is definitely solid. You definitely want to have your, being able to have a consistency card is definitely solid for any archetype. So it's a once per turn effect, which makes it, fairly balanced. And you can add one worm monster if you control a synchro monster, which the entire archetype is, or if you want to combine it with Tenyi or Yang, you can add one of them from your deck to your hand also. And the second effect, if this card is banished, you can add target one jian or worm monster you control, increase or decrease its level by 1 until the end phase. So, level modulation is always good if you're setting up for a specific synchro monster that you want to summon. Being able to modulate levels to summon that monster helps out a lot. Alright, so next spell is Jian, the Grand Spiritual Peak, which is another normal spell. First and second effects are hard once per turn each. Target one Jian monster in your graveyard for summoning. If you control a synchro monster, you can target one worm monster instead. This card is banished. You can target one Jian or worm monster. You control, increase or decrease its level by 1 until the end of this turn. Second effect, the same as the second effect on the last spell. The first effect is being able, basically a monster reborn for the archetype, of course, for worms and for Jian, which is really good. You can also bring back the synchros or any of the Jian main deck monsters. So solid, without a doubt. Alright, next we have traps now. So the first and second effects are hard once per turn. This is Jian Research. This is a normal trap. Target one face-up monster you control. Banish up to 5 Jian cards or worm monsters from your graveyard, and if you do, this card gains 300. The target gains 300 attack for each. If this card is banished, you can special summon one Jian token, Worm Water Tuner, level 4, 0/0. On the field, you cannot special summon the monsters from your extra deck except synchro monsters. So the first effect can actually be pretty good depending on how your graveyard is set up. This is good to go with the the level 10, as it also gains 100 attack for banish cards, and if it would further power it up for 300 for each, which can get it up to pretty decent levels of attack. And the token generation when it's banished is also really good for setting up your synchro plays, of course. Alright, so next card. This is Xingqiu, Sudden Shift. First, second, or hard once per turn. Target one worm monster you control and 2 other worm monsters you control. Your opponent controls and destroy them. This card is banished for summoning one Jian token, and the usual effect applies from the one I just spoke about. So the first effect is basically an Icarus attack for worms, which is really good. You have a lot of archetypes that a lot of types that have this. Zombies have their own. Reptiles have their own. Winged beasts also have their own Icarus style attack, which is the name Icarus attack. So this card is definitely solid for getting rid of disrupting your opponent players and stuff like that. All right, so that is it. Just give you guys my initial thoughts. Definitely a solid looking archetype. It has a lot of potential, especially the first card, as it can be splashed into other decks to do level A synchro plays, as it's a 1-card level A synchro. And yeah, I'll definitely be building these without a doubt, because me being a fan of Yang Zings and Tenyis, this one is pretty much up my alley in terms of it being a synchro deck and it being worms, which is another one of my favorite types and in general. Alright, so those are my thoughts. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think of these Xingqiu cards in the comments. Of course, I'll be getting back to you guys on that. So I will leave that at that. So I'll be bringing you guys more videos in the meantime. But until then, pieces. YouTube.